Now, going over to the culture part of the podcast, you have Bud Light being removed from store shelves and having their space reduced. Now, in terms of a business with physical products, this is one of, if not the worst things to possibly happen. One of my favorite shows I like to watch when I have time at the gym, or more accurately when I'm running at the gym, is Shark Tank. And many of them are very successful, doing really good. They have a lot of the sales on the e-commerce, and there is an allure where they want to be in storefronts. And for certain products, it makes sense, such as controlled substances, where you have alcohol. Depending on what state you live in, you may or may not be able to order it to your house or order it online. It is very state by state dependent. But on average, they usually flourish on a storefront. I know Drizzle app is growing exponentially, but averages here. And when it comes to certain products, you want to be on the store shelves. One of the most valuable spots on the planet, it's almost a joke in business, but the most valuable real estate is a Walmart shelf. Because companies would do anything to get there. It is life-changing. That's why Kevin O'Leary, one of the Shark Tank entrepreneurs, his life changed because of the learning software he developed. And the real spike, when you look at the hockey stick of his business, where you have consistent sales, then all of a sudden you have a hockey stick where it increases exponentially. He got a contract with Walmart, and it's very, very straightforward in terms of your negotiations. You go there, say, hey, Walmart basically tells you, we need this product at this price point. Say yes or no. And when you get your product on that shelf, on that real estate, it's invaluable. People spend their whole lives trying to get that one meeting with Walmart or one meeting with Target to get their product on that shelf, because having the consumer walk by it is life-changing. So keep in mind all of that, the vital importance for certain products to be on a physical shelf. And now you have Bud Light, because their business blunder starting April 1st, not a joke, in which, of course, we all know by now, they sent a free promo can with Dylan Mulvaney's face on it, who is a controversial because Dylan Mulvaney is a trans activist whose average audience on the TikTok is in their teens. You had a big boycott. They lost $28 billion in stock valuation and $390 million in sales. That is when you compare the same time period of Q2 from last year to this year. $400 million in sales, or specifically $390 million. That's, again, Anheuser-Busch InBev is a multi-trillion dollar valuated company. They got 51 or 52 brands that they own, including Budweiser, Bud Light, Anheuser-Busch. And they also have, Michelob Ultra, a couple of them. But still, $400 million that is terrible news. And stores are starting to feel this. And distributors are starting to feel this. And stores, anecdotally speaking, I'm in Texas, the best state ever, obviously. Now, when I go to the grocery store, I can't help but notice when I walk by a beer aisle, consistently there's one spot that's empty, in which that's having, the sales are really good. In other words, the products get there, they ship, they sell. That's Yuengling. I actually bought the first case of Yuengling for a podcast interview a couple weeks back, where one of the guests wanted to try something out. I never bought it before, and granted, I'm not a beer connoisseur. I appreciate a spirits drink when the occasion calls for it. But we had Yuengling Light, or I think they call it Flight, but it is light. Although not, it's pretty heavy. You got to pick it up. Little dad joke there, I guess. But it tastes pretty darn good. And again, I think I got the last case of the bottles. When I looked at the Anheuser-Busch InBev products, they were very much this top. I actually took a Sharpie. Some might say I'm a little bit of a rebel in my graffiti. I put a little dot with my Sharpie and a date on a case of Bud Light. And when I'm fortunate, I'll shop weekly, and I'll check, is that case that I marked still there? And it's happened 2 or 3 times where it's still there. In terms of a grocery store and sales cycle, that's terrible. And because they are not moving the units, all these stores, again, grocery stores are cutthroat. They sometimes lose money on alcohol sales just to get people in the door. On traditional grocery stores, it's a 2% profit margin in terms of the industry. That's why there's no company having a startup to go in there. You have companies like Amazon with more money than they can fathom. They bought the boutique grocery store known as Whole Foods, which, again, is organic, more expensive, ideally more profit. But name me one startup in the past 20 years that's a grocery store. Every one we go to, Kroger is over, I believe, 90 years old. You got Walmart, same thing. Walmart, I believe, was 63 founded. Fry's on the West Coast, electronic store and grocery store, over 50 years ago as well. A lot of these stores are legacy. They've been around for a while. And they're starting to lose money on these products. So they are shrinking shelf space. And in some cases, they're getting rid of Bud Light completely because they're not making money on it. And also, it's not the loss leader it once was. Even if they were losing money on the product, in terms of they sell it for $10, but it costs them $11. They put it at the back of the store, similar to milk. Most stores, they'll lose money on a gallon of milk, but they put it at the very back of the store, so you're forced to go to the store and you go to the very back, walking by more profitable items throughout the aisle. That's kind of the design of grocery store 101. It's called a loss leader. Now, if they're not going to the store because you product, the whole justification for having the product just vanishes. Now, they actually have Molson Coors CEO commenting on the situation, and not only did he say that from his experience talking to distributors, which again, they're one of the largest beer companies as well, the big trifecta is, Anheuser-Busch InBev, which I believe is the largest by revenue and the number of properties or number of brands that they own. But you also have Coors Light and you have Molson Coors. And then you also have family-owned Yuengling, which is the oldest brand or the oldest brewery in the United States as well. Now, Molson Coors noted that, again, Bud Light sales, again, are down about 30%, which, again, is hugely detrimental. Now, when asked for comment, Molson Coors said no. In bars and other on-premise channels, the company has gained more than 12,000 tap handles in this quarter. So, Molson Coors, and again, a tap handle, you have a finite number of taps when you go to a bar. They only have so many taps at the bar, so they have to choose what kegs they buy to actually put into the taps. And a Bud Light is failing. You have the Molson Coors CEO say they got 10,000 additional ones. It might not be a one-to-one in terms of they're only displacing Bud Light, but that's a huge exponential increase. Now, when asked for comment in terms of what they're going to do from a business model, Molson Coors CEO also said they're planning to spend another $100 million on marketing on the second half of this year to keep up that sales momentum. And he said that our job is to maintain those gains that we've got. This is from the CEO of Molson Coors, Hatcherley. Now, in terms of advertising, Molson Coors, a lot of people, in terms of the politics of beer, which again, as growing up, I never thought that would be a thing, but Molson Coors is being perceived much more as a apolitical or more conservative beer. From my personal perspective, I find it abhorrent that they actually had a marketing campaign in which they encouraged people to buy old cardboard materials and signs that had, the typical sexy women with a beer. You would mail it to them and they would ground it up and turn it into mulch, and they would give it to female brewers to use as mulch to grow hops. They had like a hops exchange program. And as you can see behind me, I love business history. That's part of the reason I started this channel. Also, if you have a family video sign, I'll buy it. I really want to find one. I've been looking for like 4 years now. But it's one of those things where I find advertising, especially, a fascinating historical note and business note, because it does change so fluidly with our culture. What was accessible yesterday and what used to sell a product yesterday turns into something that can be detrimental to the brand, or in some cases, it can get the brand, quote unquote, canceled or boycotted. So it gives you a unique insight into the United States or other countries, if you collect other countries' advertising memorabilia, into what was popular at the time. It's everything from fast food logos, going from changing their logos to now you see fast food logos reverting back to the retro ones. And there's a lot of speculation of why they're doing that. Maybe its quality was better back then, but Miller Lite thought, oh yeah, let's destroy all the sexy standees and the sexy posters, because they wanted to pretend to be a feminist brand. And they had a silly part of the advertising commercial where they said like, oh yeah, women were around when they first made beer. They said women were among the first people to make beer. Well, yeah, no, duh. Women were among them. Yeah, guess what? Women were among what? What was the other category? Oh yeah, men. Which again, beer doesn't have to be a gender issue, but they are certainly not a conservative. In my opinion, I didn't appreciate that advertising campaign, which is why I wouldn't consider them a 100% conservative brand. They're more than Bud Light. The bar is so low; it's basically buried these days when it comes to brand integrity. But in terms of public perception, I know I'm one of the few people who care about historical preservation when it comes to advertising, but I thought that was a business blunder on their end. Now, in terms of their marketing campaign, if they're a prudent business decision, I would think, is basically just focus on the company's history as well as being apolitical. I think the public perception and the cultural perception of Molson Coors as well as Coors Light, those two different entities, is if they were to come out with a patriotic commercial or a football commercial or some type of sports balls commercial, the consumers would still feel they're authentic and they're not patronizing them. Contrast that to Bud Light. Bud Light's trying to push what used to be their traditional commercials, and they're being mocked venomously. They came out with like a cliche Clydesdale commercial talking about 9/11 and other moments in U.S. history. And it was almost as if they asked ChatGPT, make me in a pro-America commercial, which, again, no one felt that was authentic because of their business blunder, as well as the CEO coming out after the business blunder and basically being a politician saying they wouldn't rule out doing the same thing they did again. And again, from his perspective, I understand he almost has to be a politician in that regard, but I almost think if they were to admit their mistake, they would gain some customers back. Certainly not all of them by now. It's been months since that business blunder. But in terms of a cultural perspective, their store shelves are shrinking for Bud Light. It'll be interesting to see how are they going to turn around their sales and regain that shelf space. Again, it takes years and sometimes decades to get on a shelf space in retail. It is vital for some brands to grow and develop. Will they be able to get that opportunity again? Will the stores and distributors trust them not to make another business blunder to alienate so many customers and have a ripple effect that hurts everyone? Because again, it's not just the Bud Light sales reps that are making less money. It's the distributors who move the product. It's the grocery store owners who sell the product. It's the bar owner who sells the product as well. It's a huge ecosystem, and they poisoned the whole thing. Everyone is boycotting the left, the right, the middle, the people who just want to be left alone, the people who don't want to hurt their mouths with the piss water beer. A lot of people are boycotting it. Will it be, from a cultural perspective, will they be able to pull out that nosedive? I'm a little pessimistic. At this point, I'd still say the cliche Magic 8 Ball would say, for Bud Light, outlook is not so good. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in. Again, we're trying to get to 3,000 subscribers by the end of August, so I greatly appreciate you taking the time to click that button. Also, if you take the time to like and comment, that helps us grow and develop as well. Really appreciate the feedback that I'm getting. Also, don't forget to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.